Hi, welcome to Tania's Truth Talk on the Harpreet Singh Show. As many of you may know, I'm a former madam that ran 4 Canadian brothels and I employed hundreds of women. I am now the founder of Save the Women Ministry International, and I rescue women from across the globe, raising awareness on human trafficking. Last week we were with a lady by the name of Glendene Grant. Her daughter is the famous missing Jessie Foster. We were discussing more about her story and human trafficking, and Glendene is here with us today again, and I would like to welcome her to the show. So welcome, Glendene.
Thank you.
It is so back that you came back again this week, and we're talking about, in the last segment about the pimps and how they tend to manipulate these girls. And so many times I will tell girls, I'll say, he's your boyfriend? Oh, what does he do for a living? Oh, well, he doesn't have a job right now. He's not working. And I go, listen, sweetie, if your boyfriend doesn't have a job and he's allowing you to prostitute, he is not your boyfriend. He's your pimp.
Yeah, that's so true. I look at it this way, and this is what I tell students when I'm talking, like in high schools, etc. As good as anybody is at their job,
right?
That's how good these traffickers are at their jobs.
That's what they do. Extremely cunning
that's
and manipulative.
Right. They are not where they are today because they have a heart. They're not where they are today because they have faith.
Right.
They are there where they are because they are greedy and selfish, and they don't care who they harm while they get what they want.
Right.
That's how I look at a pimp.
Right.
And when I found out that this person that my daughter was in love with and engaged to was known to the Las Vegas Metro Police as a pimp for 15 years.
Yes.
It just broke
and
my
a
heart.
lot of people say in the whole human trafficking realm of that these pimps prey on girls that come from broken homes and things like that. But that wasn't the case in Jessie's case. She was not from a broken home. I talk about how these pimps will go onto Facebook and they'll see friends of friends and they'll befriend these children on Facebook and say, hey, why don't you come to a party with me this weekend or something? And the girls think that they've met this nice guy, he's got nice friends, they're partying, and they'll be hanging out for several weeks. And during that several weeks, what they will do is they will get all the information of everything on that girl.
Yes.
So that when they do finally take her out of her comfort zone, they can scare her and say, hey, if you leave, we're going to go after your family.
That's right.
But in Jessie's case, she wasn't from a broken home. So she was just vulnerable, trusting.
Jessie
she came from
was,
a good home.
Yeah,
she was trusting.
Home. Yeah, Jessie was very trusting. I use the term that Benjamin Perrin uses, love bombing in Jessie's situation.
Yes.
She didn't need money. She had money. She had been hit by a car when she was in grade 11. She got $25,000 when she was 20 years old.
Yes.
So Jessie there's still, $11,000, $12,000 in Jessie's bank account today.
So it wasn't that she needed
money. It wasn't money. And it wasn't drugs. But like any 20-year-old, the idea of being in love was what attracted her. Now with Jessie,
your first love.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, she'd had a few boyfriends, but I mean, now she's an adult. She's out on her own, and this guy's got a nice house and beautiful car, and seems to have lots of money.
And did you ask what he did for a living? Didn't he say something about a trust fund or something?
He was a trust fund baby that his parents owned a string of McDonald's, and him and his twin brother got $5,000 a month from them. Plus, because he didn't have to work, he liked to fix and race cars.
Oh my.
So yeah.
So this was like almost too good to be true.
It was everything, $750,000 house.
So where did you really start getting suspicious, going something?
Not until she went missing. I mean, I knew. I didn't like the relationship.
You didn't like the feeling of it.
I didn't like it. They fought all the time. There's no reason. I would get on the phone with him and say, because he was older. Jessie was 21, he was 34, but he was actually older. That was the age we thought at the time, 34 years old. It turned out he was closer to 40, but at the time, Jessie knew I was going to not like the age anyways.
Right.
But I would get on the phone with him and I would say, you don't need this. She's 21 years old. She's jealous. You've been married. You have children. Oh, you don't. I'd try to kind of thinking that he's just a regular guy, and I'm trying to convince him how to be with my daughter because you don't need this. She's, you're fighting all the time. And I just tried to use.
Kids.
He has, at the time, a 5-year-old son, and now he'd be 11. And, you know, I've got pictures of Jesse with his son, holding him on his knee, smiling. This little boy loved her until the biological mother started telling him not to. And then he would come to the house and treat Jesse really badly. And she would call me up crying, go, how can I, you know, be in his life if this happens? Because she was really trying to have a normal life.
So when you went to the authorities, what happened and how did they deal with that? You said they went in the house, they peekabooed around, said everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Okay, and but then you hired a private investigator on your own. And didn't you find out she was in the hospital?
Well, yeah, that's how we found it all. Not from the police. We found out
not from the police.
No.
Okay.
The PI found out she was beaten and hospitalized with a broken jaw, and that she'd been forced to work at a desperate agency.
So would you say that the authorities basically treated your case was she's not a missing person, she's just out in Vegas having a good time, and that's what she's doing?
She had been arrested for solicitation, so she was
being judged as a prostitute.
She was not somebody they needed to worry about. Obviously, they figure if you make bad choices, you get what's coming to you. So, you know, and when I told them, you know, no, she didn't run off and start a life somewhere else, and maybe she wasn't killed and you know, buried out in the Mojave like they said. Maybe somebody took her somewhere. Maybe there's a third option that she's just taken somewhere, and they dismissed it completely. I asked for media, help me get some media. He told me no one would be interested in her case.
Oh my.
And I've now got about 500 newspaper articles, and 9 or 10 books, documentaries, because nobody's going to tell me, no one's going to care about my daughter's case.
Right.
And a lot of people will tell you who I consider the head investigator on Jesse's case, and that's myself. I'm the one that does all the work
I would
on
say
her
so
case.
too.
Nobody else does anything.
Yes.
I take the tips, I pass it to the police on both sides of the border.
Oh my.
I send it to the Crime Stoppers there and in Kamloops, and I, you know, if somebody has a tip, I make sure that it goes to every officer in North Las Vegas, so the one on the case can't just file the email.
So has there been tips coming along down the road about Jessie? Can you tell me more about that?
I mean, we have tips.
So she's presumed alive?
Oh, definitely. I don't feel that Jessie's dead at all.
Okay.
The latest tip came from ACT, ACT Alberta.
Okay.
And I got an email from Andrea, and she said there was a video that was trying to get funding to be made a documentary on pimping.
Okay.
You know, like not on pimping, but you know. And there is a shot of a poster in this picture, in this video.
Right.
And I looked at it, and it was the closest that I've ever had. Because people send me pictures all the time. This looks like Jessie, and I'd look, and there was not one thing about it that looks like Jessie.
Right.
This one jumped right out at me, and so you know, and that was a week ago.
Yeah,
and a year ago, we had a human trafficking task force in Indianapolis working on her case because of some tips that came from down there and in Kentucky. And you know, we've had people think they saw her in Amsterdam and saw her posters over there. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody thinks
global
anything.
Attention.
Yeah, she's been on a missing person show in South Africa and a radio, I should say a newspaper 3 times in Sunderland, England.
Right.
The Sunderland News in London, England, because of a song that was written by Nigel Graham. He writes songs for the missing.
Right.
Jesse's was the 3rd song. He just started doing this last year.
My.
And it's just, you know, things come our way. There's a singer, songwriter, musician, Lee Safar. She's written songs for the Twilight movie. And she did a Sweet Angels missing project and included Jesse's case. And it was released International Missing Children's Day in May.
Right.
And it was internationally everywhere. And Jessie was one of the people in that video. So it just doesn't, people just come to me. I mean, I go after it a lot to get her show, you know, different shows. But other people come to us. They want to hear about Jessie.
So what do the police say when you pass these tips on to them? I mean, it should be the other way around.
Normally nothing. Yeah, no, they don't
and
say
they
anything.
say nothing.
Nothing. There was a time where my emails all bounced back as spam.
Oh my
From
goodness.
anybody in the
From
North
the
Las
police.
Vegas police, it all bounced back as reported as spam.
So they're probably not even really treating it like a missing persons case because she's still around.
They don't believe that she's, well, no, they think she's dead.
They think she's dead?
No, he's told me he thinks she's out in the Mojave Desert somewhere buried.
Okay.
And he said, well, then go find her. Get out there and dig up her bones and check the DNA, and then I will go from looking for my live daughter to my grieving process, and I'll carry on, and we will have some kind of answers. But don't just sit there telling me that she's probably dead when I'm looking at you telling you she's probably alive. I don't know how they can even
say to that. That's just
I just pray that he never has to live a day of what
One
I'm
day
living.
of what you're living.
And then because he couldn't survive what he's done to us, if
Oh,
he
my
had to
goodness.
know what it felt like.
Yeah.
And but you know what? I don't let it get to me. I have many sayings. One of them
Right.
is I don't expect anything. I just appreciate everything. It doesn't
Right.
matter. Somebody could tell me flat out they're going to do it. I still don't expect it.
Let's get more and brush up on this topic of the investigators when we get back. You're watching Tania's Truth Talk on the Harpreet Singh Show. I'm just moved by and so encouraged by this guest, Glendene Grant. Please tune in after the commercial break.